brake change.
For reference, my car is a 2009 Vauxhall Insignia. If you have a tall chest like this, then you probably have everything. Biggest size I needed was 22mm for the actual wheel removal, and then 21mm for the caliper bolts, but everything else was between 13 to 17mm. A torque wrench, a breaker bar, and a caliper rewind tool is ideal. It'll make the job easier to do, you'll do it properly, and you'll have the stuff to use for the next time. In the description, the links for the products that I used are below. When ordering the brakes, my rims are 17 inches and I needed 16-inch brake sets. When you're ordering the brakes, everything comes as a pair with the exception of the front disc, so you need to order 2 of them. Everything else just order 1 of, including the rear disc because they're sold as a pair. Double check the description when you're purchasing them. So my set only came with the brake pads and the shims, they didn't come with anything else. However, this was one of the images on the description. I didn't get the brake wear sensors or the pins or the lube. First we're going to jack up the car. Now this is the shortened version of this brake change video, so I'm going to skip ahead to have the car jacked up. The full version includes jacking up the car, taking the wheel off, so everything you need to know. So if you've never done it before, then use the link in the description below, but I'm going to skip ahead to the car jacked up in the air now. Whether you're doing the front or back brakes, it's exactly the same concept. The front ones you have the advantage of being able to turn the wheel, which opens it up and gives you more space to work with. Don't worry, the camera angle gets better.
I've turned the wheel, we've got a little bit easier access. So we have a bolt at the top and at the bottom with a little rubber boot on. So there's a bolt here and here, so we're going to use 2 spanners to get this off, and it's going to be the same on here, so those 2. Okay, so on the back one we have a 14mm, and on the front one we have 17. So this is why you want to get good tools, because we're going to start hammering in a second. It's going to spray a little bit of WD-40 on the boot. This is going to help stop it from splitting. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to hold it in place. I'm using that end on here. I'm just going to hold it, give it a little tap. There we go, we've got a little bit. Just keeping a firm grip on here because I don't want it shaking too much. There we go, you can see the other ones come off now. So what we're going to do, just undo it a little bit more so we can do by hand. I'm going to do exactly the same on the bottom one. So the WD-40, try and find somewhere to put the spanner.
So what we're going to do is remove the entire bottom bolt. Now the 4 caliper bolts do have Loctite on them, which is why they're a little bit stiff to get out. As you can see, I'm using a hammer to kind of help break it open. Now I'm only giving them gentle taps, I'm not trying to smash them or anything, just tap tap tap. Now I'm going to lift up the caliper housing itself and we're going to re-tighten the bolt. So I took mine out just so I could show you where exactly it is. So we're just going to tighten it back up so the caliper housing doesn't drop down, and we're going to secure it with bungee cords at the top. The next job that we're going to be doing is rewinding the caliper piston itself, which is the steel ring that you see at the top.
Now I've just put it back on for the top because we're going to rewind this now. Okay, and I put bungee cord around. Yours might be a different length than mine. I just tied it on the back there, so we can easily squeeze this back now.
Now when you push the caliper back in, it's going to push some of the fluid back up. So you want to unwind the reservoir. It will say dot with a number on. Mine says .4, and you want to put it somewhere where you remember to put it back. I also recommend putting paper towels around the reservoir. Now we want everything clean and lubricated correctly, so we're going to use some brake cleaner on the piston itself. This way no dust is going to go in there when we're pushing it back in. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to use a rewind tool. So this is the one that I ended up purchasing. It had pretty good ratings. Links to all the tools are in the description below. Now here's the rewind tool in action. The front brakes, I actually used an old brake pad from the rear where I changed them yesterday. And what we're going to do is we're going to push back this piston so it's the shiny silver thing, but we're going to make sure that the rubber doesn't get squashed. Then all you do is you do the whole righty-tighty. It will slowly go in. You don't want to force it because it will be pushing back some of the brake fluid up back to the reservoir. You can loosen the bleed screw if you'd like, which is just on the other side of the brake caliper. The brake line is on a little hook, so you can just push it directly up and it will come off. This will give you a little bit more space. But we're going to remove the bolt now, which is holding the caliper on, and then we're just going to rest it somewhere.
Just going to support it as I take this off. There you go, a little bit of extra support so it's not going to fall down. So it's resting on here, the main weight, but I've got 2 bungee cords now around the suspension. And then it's time to take these 2 off. So one here and one here. I'm going to be using a breaker bar with the 21mm. So it's just here.
They might be stiff because they should have thread locker on them to stop the vibrations for them to come off.
And we're going to go to the back of the car. So lifting up, back of the car. So now that one's broken, or cracked should I say, going to do the other one.
Now it takes a lot to edit these videos, so I really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe, that would be really great, but let's get back to it.
So they have Loctite on. They may be a little bit stiff. So if you use a breaker bar in the correct socket, you should be able to get it off without much of a problem. Don't use the wrong size, because if you use the wrong size, you may end up rounding it off and you're just going to cause yourself a big headache. With these bolts removed, we can actually slide this out this way. So put that safe. Safe. So you don't need to smash these out. Okay, just pull the whole thing out because it's just easier to do it this way. Now, my Delphi brakes that I brought actually had to use the same shims as last time, so I don't want to warp them just in case that's going to be the case this time. But you can see the brake indicator.
What I mean is like this. So I've seen a whole bunch of videos of people just trying to pry out the brake pads like this. You don't need to do it like this. You can just slide the whole thing out. And if you do need to reuse the shims, which are those little metal clips on the top and the bottom, then you could damage them by doing it this way around.
Okay, so this is how it is inside of the vehicle. So these big bolts at the bottom, those were 21mm. Okay, so there's 2 of them. That holds it in place. The carrier ones were 14mm on the front, and what we did is we used the 14mm on this side, and then we had a 17mm holding that side. So they're the ones that you need on this one. Now it went this way into the car, so it slides in like this. So by releasing these, you can just pull the whole thing out. Now you see here, that is the brake wear indicator. So when you run your low on brakes, you'll hear like a high-pitched squealing, which is to let you know when it is to change the pads. And that goes towards the center of the vehicle. So when I do the other side, that's going to be facing the center of the vehicle. So it's the inside of the car, okay? The ones without the brake wear indicators do the out. Now you should be able to just push these out. There we go, because they slide like this. There's the one pad, and then here's the other one. This one's a little bit stuck on, so I don't want to warp it just in case I need to use these again. My Brembo pads did come with them, however when I did the rear wheels yesterday, these were a different size. So you can mix and match the pads. There we go, popped out. So I've not damaged them, they're the same. And when we go to lubricate them later, that's where we're going to lubricate. These will just pull out. They'll have grease on them.
The pins are slightly different, so the first one was just the whole metal one, and then the second one you'll see a black plastic tab at the top of it.
But yeah, we're going to clean these up with a wire brush on the inside. Okay, before we do the brake clean itself, we're just going to put one of these bolts on. So we've got the retention screw in here, which is a T30, which looks like that. And when we look at it, again, we're going to do lefty loosey. This one came out pretty easy. If it doesn't come out easy, then give it a spray with WD-40 and then a light tap just around. So you want to hit this, and that will help with the to get it out. Now my Delphi pads that I had on the back, I actually had to use the same screw, so I don't want to round it off or anything. And the reason we have this on is so the brake disc doesn't drop off by accident. Okay, so we don't want it to land on anybody, especially myself. And then this will just pull forward. And for the actual brake clean itself, so we want to have this all flush and smooth as possible. Now if they used good anti-seize, then it should come off pretty easy. I'm going to be using the LIQUIMOLY brake cleaner and a wire brush. So this one isn't too stiff. It's the golden one, so it's like a medium stiffness. Now you want to wear like glasses or something, because this does come out pretty quick. And just so you don't ruin your drive, I've cleaned that one down now. Cardboard underneath, and we're just going to clean the screws up as well. You can see it's used a yellow thread locker before. We're using the medium one, which is the blue one. But yeah, I'm going to tidy this up. I'm going to clean where the shims are going to go.
You want to give it a really good clean, so almost like showroom condition if you can. To be fair, they're only about £20 for my vehicle.
Okay, you want to guide pin out the sleeve, clean the boot as well, and then you're going to put that rubber bit in the chamber here. So, like so. There we go, it's in. And then you're going to have your clean bolt. I just dropped it, so I'm going to re-grease it, clean it up. Like so. And then gonna put the guide pin back in, and we want this lip to end up going over here. So just pull it in, give it a little twist, and as you go in, there we go. Nice and easy. It's the same on the other side. Just pull it out, take the boot off. You may need to pull it with your nails just to get the top bit off. There we go. So we're going to clean inside here, give it another clean. Now it's time to put the disc on. So what we're looking to look for is, if they're the same size, let's put them back to back. Perfect. And then we're going to line up the little holes on the front as well. So there's the little hole here, to make sure they're all the same thickness, everything brilliant.
With the new brake discs, they actually have an oil film on them. That's to stop them going rusty while they're in the shelf. So you do need to clean them with brake cleaner. So give it a good generous clean. So you want to do it where the brake pads actually meet the disc themselves. So just spray them both sides and then give them a good clean with some paper towel. You don't want to get any grease or any type of lubrication on the discs themselves. We're going to be using the LIQUIMOLY Anti-Squeal paste. One bottle was enough to do both the front and back brakes. And we're going to use it on all the friction surfaces. The only place we're not going to put it is on the actual main disc itself and where the pads meet the disc. As I edit this video, it's 6 months on from when I actually did the brakes. They still don't squeal. I found it very easy to work with. You can just see it just basically paints on. All the products in the video are in the description below, and I paid full retail for them. So
we just need to line up the little hole with the odd one. I'm gonna leave one of these in for just so it doesn't fall off. T30. Nice and tight. There we go. Check the shims to see if they're the same. Yep, they're the same. So my back wheels, if you've skipped the video, the shims were a different size because I used Delphi rotors or disc with Brembo pads.
They can only go in one way and you should hear a click, so push them in firmly. Now we put the brake caliper back on, and now I'm going to put medium strength thread locker on. That will stop the vibrations and for them to slowly unwind over time. It's the reason why the bolts are stiff to get out in the first place, and then what we're going to do from there is we're going to just tighten them with a ratchet until we can't tighten them anymore, both the bottom and the top one, and then we're going to switch over to a torque wrench. I'll throw up the torque wrench settings for the Insignia here.
I'm going to torque the bolts. So it works just the same as a ratchet, and you're just listening for a click. There we go, there's one. I'm just doing the top one now. Okay, I needed the extension arm for this one. There we go. Easy.
Getting the pads to get into the shims was actually quite tricky, so if you have any tips, please leave them in the comments below. So the one with the audible warning in them goes on the inside of the car, and for now I've just lubricated the top and the bottom where they would go into the shims, and then we're just pushing the brake pad against the brake disc itself so it's level. So it's the same on the outer side, the one without the audible warning on there. The difference with the back brakes was the inner pads, the one with the audible warning on them, you had to put them in the brake carrier first before mounting them back onto the vehicle. So let me show you on screen what that actually looks like so you know. So you can see the top and bottom bolts that are sticking out. You can see where their kind of housing covers the shims. So I couldn't get the pads onto the actual carrier itself, so I had to take the whole bracket off in order to get the back brakes back on. Jumping back to the front pads, so just like all the pads that I've done on the front and the back, I put the LIQUIMOLY paste on there, and this apparently stops the brakes from squealing. I did put a little bit underneath the aluminium plate that the Brembo brakes came with, which you can see right in the center there. Now where the caliper piston housing is, on the opposite side of where the piston is, I put a little bit there. That's where the brakes also meet the pads where they contact the metal. I didn't add any paste to where the piston is, just on the back of the brake pads, the shims, and just on the brake carrier.
So let's put this back on. I have rewound it back if you skipped, and I'm going to put the bolts back on, and I'm going to use a little bit of medium thread locker again on there.
Because of the vibrations in the car and under braking, you want to use the thread locker to stop the bolts from coming undone. Now we're just going to tighten up the bolts here, and then I forgot to film the part where I used the brake cleaner to re-clean the disc. And remember to unhook the bungee cord. Before you put the tyre back on, you want to straighten up the wheel. I used a little bit of the LIQUIMOLY Anti-Seize paste on the rim itself, and then you throw the tyre back on. With the reservoir as well, don't forget to put the cap back on and make sure you clean any surfaces around or top it up if you need to. Then give the brakes a good pump and then they should build resistance. Now take it easy when you're driving around with your new brakes. Places like Halfords and Quick Fit offer free brake checking service, so you can always double check with those guys. Now I've got a few other videos that I've done documenting the way that I've done things because I'm not a mechanic or anything. If you want your car to drive like new, you want to clean the EGR valve. The job will take you under an hour to do and your car will drive like new. I made an easy to follow guide. If you appreciate the video, then if you can like the video and leave a comment, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. Have a great day.